Today we are going to talk about the financing of long-term assets, and in the previous class we started to discuss the IAS 16, and the IAS 16 is concerned with the property, plant and equipment, and actually we talked about how to determine the cost of each asset, and we took examples like مثلا how to calculate the cost for land, how to calculate the cost for a building, how to calculate the cost for the land improvement, for equipment, and actually we practiced on that through a numerical example, and we reached for that slide last time, which is what are the main financing alternatives for the long-term assets. And we said we are using cash flow from operation, يعني maybe the company is doing business, achieving cash flow, and this cash flow can be invested by the company in the long-term assets. Take a long-term loan. Maybe the company will finance the purchase of that asset through taking long-term loan. Long-term means more than 1 year. Or to issue common stock. Maybe I can issue common stock in order to finance the asset, or to get a long-term notes, and the long-term notes is something like the long-term loan, okay, but with different conditions. We can also issue bond. Well, bond, as you know, is long-term liability to be paid by the company, interest to be paid during the maturity or the life of the bond. Right. Actually, before I go for the next slide that's showing, as you can see here, the lifetime of the asset, I would like to say that the financing of the assets in some cases may affect the cost of the asset, but this is another issue that will be raised in another standards later on. In that slide we can see the lifetime of the asset. He is dividing the lifetime of the asset into 3 main events. The first one is the acquisition, when you purchase the asset. When you purchase the asset, and then you start to use it. This is the second phase, which is last for whole the useful life. And then we have the disposal, at the end of the useful life, what we are going to do with the assets. Acquisition, and this is what did we explain, measurement of cost, how to measure the cost of asset, as we just explained. The second is the use, which is whenever we are using the asset, we are allocating, the expired cost to period benefit, depreciation expense that we are calculating every period. And this is very known, very normal, I think ان انتم familiar with, to calculate the depreciation. Another thing to be done called the subsequent expenditures. The expenditures or the expenses to be incurred during the life of the assets after we started to use, like مثلا the repairs, the maintenance, the additions, and at the end the disposal. How to record the disposal, how you are going to get rid of the assets. Let's first explain what do we mean by expenditure, related to a subsequent expenditure to be done during the use of the asset. Expenditures are payments, obligation to make future payment for assets or services. And it is divided into 2 types, capital and revenue. Capital expenditure for the purchase or expansion of the long-term assets. Expenditure here is to make an addition to the asset, like if you have a building that has 2 floors and you would like to construct or build the 3rd floor. This is capital expenditure because it is an addition. If we are going to pay for something that will enhance or increase the useful life of the asset, this will be considered capital expenditure. Anything that will expand the life of the long-term asset, it is a capital expenditure. But on the other hand, we have revenue expenditure. Expenditure for the repair, maintenance, and operation of a long-term. Actually here, we don't extend the useful life of the asset. We are not increasing the productivity of the asset. We are not enhancing the quality of output of the asset. احنا هنا we are maintaining the assets operating. Maintaining the assets operating. And I think here this slide will make it more easier to understand. Okay, طيب. Actually here we are recognizing the cost subsequent to acquisition, as we said. Once we started to use the asset, we have to consider all the costs subsequent to acquisition based on the following criteria. طيب, it is measurable reliably. يعني we can find out the value of that asset very reliable. It is probable that the company will obtain future economic benefit. It will help the company to get future economic. طيب, what is the future economic benefit? First of all is the useful life. لو ال cost or expenditure will increase the useful life, this is a future economic benefit. It will increase the quantity of the product produced. يعني instead of مثلا producing 100 unit, it will produce 120. This is future economic benefit. Quality of the product quality itself will be improved. Any of those will be considered as future economic benefit on a condition in احنا we can measure in a reliable way. In a reliable way. Okay? طيب. Next بقى. This slide is summarizing the different types of costs to be incurred subsequent to acquisition. طيب. We have major type of expenditure. Addition, which is increase or extension of existing assets. This is addition, like the example of the building. Type improvement and replacement, substitution of an improved assets with existing one. When you sell your old car and get a new car. Type rearrangement and reorganization, movement of assets from one location to another. يعني you changed the layout of the factory, changing مثلا department or equipment A from مثلا the left hand corner to the right hand corner. ماشي. Repairs, expenditures that maintain asset in condition. It does not extend the useful life of the asset. Actually here, it just maintain the asset in condition. Okay, fine. What are the main accounting treatment for each of these types of expenditure? If we are talking about addition, like مثلا a building with 2 floors and we are going to construct or build the third floor, we are capitalizing the cost of addition to asset account. يعني it will be considered part of the asset and it will be added to the cost and it will be depreciated. Improvement and replacement. Remove cost and accumulate depreciation of old asset and recognize any gain or loss. يعني if you have an old asset and you are going to sell it, you are going to eliminate all of this account in the entry. And to capitalize the new cost that you pay to get the new assets. Okay. Rearrangement and reorganization. Expense cost of rearrangement and reorganization to be considered as expenses. It is not part of the cost because it does not extend the useful life of the asset. طيب. The last thing is the repair بقى. And we have to keep in mind if it is ordinary, like the repair مثلا you are doing for the car for each مثلا for 5,000 kilometers or 10,000 kilometers, these are expenses to be deducted in the income statement. If it is a major repair, like مثلا what we said that we are going to replace the engine of the car, خلاص, actually we have to remove cost and accumulated depreciation of the old asset and recognizing any gain or loss and capitalize the cost of major repair. طيب. The carrying value. What is the carrying value? Carrying value is an expired cost of an asset, and it is always, we call it always the book value. If you remember, the carrying value is the book value. Cost minus accumulated depreciation, and we call it, as we said, a book value. Type. The last part of the standard is what are the main requirements خلاص for disclosure. We said any standard has 3 main sections. The first one is the scope. on what items, on what accounts, on what transaction this standard will be used for. 2, the measurement, what are the values that will be taken into consideration to be recorded في books. 3 is the disclosure. What is disclosure? What will be disclosed in the financial statements. طيب. Actually, what should be disclosed here? The depreciation method that you are going to use, the depreciation rate أو useful life, beginning and ending balance and reconciliation of the two for gross amount and total of accumulated depreciation and impairment loss. يعني we are always presenting, for example, مثلا the assets beginning balance, we are subtracting the accumulated depreciation to get the book value. This will be considered as the beginning. This will be considered as the end. This is the change that happened during the period. All of that must be presented or disclosed by the company. Right. To test your understanding, discuss how the cost of the new equipment should be determined. And by that, we are ending this chapter, which is IAS 16, International Accounting Standard number 16. And next time, inshallah, we are going to go for a new IAS. See you then.